Suspense.
And we're
Suspense.
live.
Wow, that was a lot of suspense. By the way, we had a lot of suspense before we started. We're live. Lawrence, hey, it's our let's bring our company to work day.
Yes.
Hold on, how does that work? Bring our company to play day. That's what we have our crazy backgrounds. I had mine stuck from my last meeting, and then Larry said, "Oh, I got a company too."
Well,
So
yeah, I'm gonna have to put mine up as well.
then
And
you put yours up.
I'm Big Bird today with my yellow shirt.
Oh, well, there we go,
Okay.
Big Bird. Well, I'm blue to match my blue, and because my company's in France, I somehow have a French
Oh,
sports team T-shirt shirt on, which is it's okay because we're fans also. We it's the fun stuff. And we were taking a while by the way to get started. This was like the bumper. Okay, bumper's on. Where the bumper by the way is that technical term for that piece that starts before we start. It's just a bump. They call it a bump. I don't. Why do they call it a bump? There's got to be a reason for it. It's like why do they say break a leg versus the other
well,
word?
or a canned start, right? It's a canned, right? Because originally film was in cans, and you would just put it on, and it would be
That's
at the
right.
front.
It was canned. That's right. It was in a can, so that's how it would go. So a
But
bumper,
I don't
there
know
must
about
be
the
something to bump you in, or maybe in vaudeville they used to be like psh, that's what I call getting the hook and going up.
getting the hook. Yes, yes.
All these crazy terms. By the way, all discoverable on the internet to find out. Maybe the ancient languages can come back to life. If somebody cares to look them up.
We can get the interwebs going.
Get the interwebs really fighting with that kind of information over there. That's for sure. So I'm trying to think. Last time, what did we let? We had a short session because we were doing quite a bit of stuff over here. All of that's behind us, and all of a sudden, though, I'm approaching what seems to be conference season. In conference season is that time after summer is over, I'm looking at it in this in the calendars over here. On the tech side, if you just type in conferences right now, you will see a massive amount of technical conferences, and it looks like a lot of them are hybridy, virtual, and in person, and there's a lot of in person ones again going back in just these next few months. It's like,
Interesting.
oh, it's like people are coming back, and the
Yes.
technical folks are wanting to meet. They're getting antsy sitting in their areas. I'm not sure if that's it because there's virtual, so they're still sitting in their areas when they're doing that. But there seems to be a lot more of them suddenly, unless I'm missing something because I've been watching these for a while. Usually I watch out so I can find for an opportunity to speak and all of things
Right.
like that. And now all of a sudden I'm getting quite a few of them. I mean, a few of them I'm actually in. I actually have a discount code associated to my name in some of them, which is
Oh,
strange to see. But yeah, it's like, hey, get $100 if you click on Ralph. It's like, oh, okay. And
very
I'm
cool.
thinking I'm missing out on something over here if they're clicking on
Yeah,
me.
we'll put that in. We'll put
Hold
that
on.
in our show link,
Give me
right?
maybe Raquel can make a button that goes on the screen and just click over here and then I get $100. No, that won't.
We'll just put it down in the show notes. It'll be fine.
Raquel's thinking it through. It's like click here. Except for the $100, she can probably make a button that suddenly shows up on my head. I bet.
I can
It's
do it
just,
in post.
she can do it in post. Oh, there we go. Of course, she can make it do it in post. That's true. She can animate me into that level. And
Right.
I understand she's getting better at doing things like that. Speaking of which, we will be discussing Raquel. We have some stuff for the M365 conference coming up. Side business. Let's see what else is things to look at over here.
Well, I
There
mean,
was something on the list.
speaking of animation, though, I mean, one of the things that I saw recently, a clip about people using AI to replace real time images in films or images in films and things like that, so that someone is sitting down in a bar drinking a Coke, they can change it to a Pepsi real time, so that depending on which region of the country they're showing the TV show or streaming the movie to,
Right.
you can see it in different ways.
Oh, okay. So
And
on a
yeah,
stock show, that makes sense. Remember what Raquel said? We can do it in post. So in
right,
post, they can use just a replace, and then the computer can basically determine the movement of the object because the AI is smart enough to recognize the image
right.
as it moves and changes it. Right. But
And
isn't
people
that how
used to have,
filters work? Isn't that how
right.
filters work? The live filters?
The live filters work that way, but see, people used to in order to have a fake background, you would have to have a green screen, and then
Right.
so you could. But we don't have green screens behind us now. I
No.
mean, I've got a whole
No, we
regular.
don't. A very interesting, by the way, development, because in the past you could not do what we did without a green screen. You had to have something.
Right, and but
Shot.
what people had to do in the past was they had to do a lot of that outlining manually, right, on each frame of the picture. But now it's something that can be done automatically,
Right.
through this AI. Same way that we have AIs that draw pictures. You type in, a phrase or something like that, and it will actually try to render a picture for you
Wow.
based on what you ask it
It's
for.
true.
And
So
so,
yeah, I was going to say I've seen this. You know where I've seen this recently? Well, yeah, remember I talked about on vacation. We went to Disney and stuff. Disney very powerful with pieces. Here's two instances where I saw it happen. There's one ride in Tomorrowland called the Laugh Factory. And this is the one because the concept, of course, of Monsters Inc. If everyone's seen that one, at Monsters Inc. They say, hey, instead of like scaring kids, we'll make them laugh because that gives us more energy. And so Mike Wazowski and Sully, they basically create a laugh floor and everything else. And in the TV show that follows on Disney Plus, they actually have a thing about that, the Laugh Academy that they have, and they go through it. And so this is that Laugh Academy that he has going. Right. And so the audience comes in. So what do you expect? Maybe it's just going to be like a show thing or maybe animatronics and everything. No, it's actually interactive. And how do they do that? They actually have monsters that come in and they go and they interact with the audience. But wait a minute, they're live because they're actually pointing out, sometimes they'll like show a video and that guy over there with the hair or whatever, or they'll make fun of someone, or like that person will say something, show me your best thing, and they're like, oh really, yeah, and then you can see them like moving their eyes and their head and pointing and actually looking at the ones, because that technology, someone behind the scenes is actually looking. There's obviously cameras, they can see what's going on, they're actually able to focus things, and it's moving live. It's like all of a sudden a Pixar show being created before your very eyes.
right.
Take it further. We go to Epcot. They have the Living Seas where they have the turtle guy. Everyone's seen Finding Nemo. It's like, you're turtle dude. Yeah, the California dude talking that way. And he's like, his name is Crush, right? Yeah, Crush dude. He's going to talk to you live. And they have a guy that's doing the California accent perfectly. And for all we know, even that might be,
Right. Well,
fixed with the
deep
sound.
fake on voices.
Exactly. But live, because again, pointing out to the audience, there's all the kids sitting up front, so they're pointing to them, pointing to their parents, and doing all that stuff. But it's if you go to that kind of show, it's different literally every time. They might have some of the same patterns. They'll follow a flow because they only have a certain time to go through. It's scripted to that extent, but otherwise it's unscripted. That is powerful. Can you imagine doing that for a meeting?
Do you remember? I mean, you remember when Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and all of that, Golem, and
Yes.
and you saw the guy that did Golem, and he was in the green suit with all the bubbles and things like that. That's how you used to have to do motion capture.
That's true.
To attach to rigs, but the way that we are now, right? The way that you and I are sitting in front of this screen,
right?
I mean, we have AI that can use just regular images like this to do motion capture and then to rig, animations.
That is
crazy.
Yes.
Yes.
So there's also VTubers. So they have there's one lady who has a full bodysuit just to do the VTubing thing with like eye tracking, all the sort of tracking that you need. It's all hooked up. It's a whole suit on her body, and she streams on Twitch. And she has like a 3D rendered character, and she can always change like what she's wearing. She can change her environment. It's pretty incredible. But yeah, also Twitch has a lot of this kind of stuff that captures your face or whatever movements you have. That one that she has obviously is way more meticulous and easier to use. I've used a VTuber kind of effect before, and sometimes it can be a little wonky, but it's taking whatever is on your camera, so that is also another thing as well.
It's like the filters, the
the lawyer that was the cat. Remember that? I am not a cat. That guy.
I mean,
exactly.
all of that type of capture is available, and what's really cool is that just even 5 years ago, right, we couldn't do this. We weren't quite there yet.
Right.
But because we're in the cloud, because we have so much bandwidth and compute
and processing
power,
yeah, the compute power, exactly.
the AIs are getting just so much better. I mean, I can imagine, walking down the street and having an ad in one of the windows change based on who I am.
Well, it'll look at you, and then all of a sudden you see you on the ad wearing the suit that they're trying to sell you.
Exactly.
Very intrusive because it just looked at you, and because it sees you, and it'll do
Right.
it. I could see that.
You're walking on the street, and so you're in the public, but things like, I mean, Netflix. If you go to Netflix right now, if you and I both bring up, a list of shows, the thumbnails that we see are going to be different based on who we are.
Of course.
They're doing a lot of targeting. They're doing a lot of that type of thing already. And that's without the camera, without seeing who it is, because it knows who you are by who you log in at.
Well, that's even, and here's the thing, and some folks think like, well, I'll use the tools that say to privatize me, to give any information. It'll probably take some of the information, but there's still some stuff that they'll have to know. If you're joining a private, you're joining something that someone privately says, hey, that's my business. You want to sign up? I need your email. And I need something. It's going to ask you for something. You might say, I don't want to give any of this information. Or it might be like in the case of Europe, like if I give you the information, you have to make sure I can go and ask for it and do all fine and well. In the end of the day, though, if I don't want to abide by that, in other words, I don't want to let you in unless you give me at least some of this information, you could say, well, I don't want to be there at all because you want too much information from me. Then you're not there. But once you're there and you said yes when you thought that, well, I thought they were only going to take this much over here. Well, you should have read the fine print. It's a lot more than you think. They actually have a lot more information than you think.
Once you're connected to an individual, right? Once that identity is established, it can be associated with all of the other information about that identity in the cloud. You don't have to tell them your address because they've already gotten it from when you got an Amazon shipment last week.
That's right.
You don't have to tell them your age because they get it from, the search that you did for a doctor's.
That's right. So sometimes, and yeah. So here's what I'm also finding out: like some places, like after all that tapping down on what you're giving out, all of a sudden you'll run into the one area where they're not as, let's say, diligent with your data. And that's all they need to get through it. All it takes is something to be in a cookie that they never told you was in a cookie. Because like in Europe, maybe the rules are like, oh, it'll be in a cookie. Well, that's because everyone is basically doing the right thing. They don't have to tell you. Maybe you can get a system that blocks it and finds you. But unless you're savvy enough or you're like paying attention, in some cases, you see the pop up and you're like, get that. Let's get that out of my face. Hey, that was a pop-up to tell you that you cared about it, but you suddenly didn't care. What happened?
And once that identity connection is made, then they have anything else that's associated with that identity. And
that's it.
It's crazy.
Genie out of the bottle.
I love the VR and AR. AR is where I really, again, augmented reality is the better, in my mind. That's the better approach. That's the more interesting approach. But even VR, is going to be something else. I mean, think about that the whole idea of the metaverse.
Yes.
I mean,
we got a metaverse talk coming soon, though. That's one thing that's also on my list. I wanted to talk about things like the HoloLens, that technology, the HoloLens versus say a what do they call it, the VR, the Oculus. The difference between them, an Oculus, a VR, once you put your eyes in there, you are in the world. You're outside. Whatever you see outside, you may be lucky to see outside because there's something that's actually looking outside, maybe helping you look. But the HoloLens is different. The HoloLens is just simply a lens, and what you're seeing now is the augment to your virtual. Now it's right now a big bulky piece over here, but I can see that becoming as compact as, say, a pair of glasses at some point, right? Or let's get it even more compact to eventually be fitting inside of a like a contact lens. Can
Yeah.
the technology get that small? Well, you know what? It already is.
It already is.
Right.
Yeah.
But is it safe to put in your eye? I don't know. Maybe not necessarily, but I have a feeling they're already at that point. Somebody's done it. Somebody's put it into glass. Right. If you can that's what I'd like to see. If there is a chip that is so see-through that you can actually put it in a piece of glass and you can still go like that and not see it. Wouldn't that be cool?
And if you think about it, if you look at the display technology that we have today with the foldable cell phones, and I just saw recently about a gaming monitor, right? That folds, that can be either flat or curved depending on how you fold it.
Yes.
Because we have those screens that are no longer on glass; they're on a plastic.
Right.
That gets you right there to contact lenses.
Well, so they have the foldable phones too. So
yes,
isn't that the same? Isn't that pretty much that technology right there?
Yep.
What are we waiting for?
What are we waiting for?
Where's my flying car? I'm still waiting for that one. Actually, we are at push button. George Jessen pushes the button and go home. We're actually there. Yeah. So if there's anything, we are there. Can we take our work and put it into a briefcase? Technically speaking, we are also there. Right. But we're even better than George. He puts it in a briefcase. You know what? George just has to get up and go. He really doesn't have to take it. He doesn't have to bring anything. He's already wearing it. He's ready to go. So we've actually surpassed George that area. We just don't have the flying cars.
Well,
we actually have Rosie, the robot. We have robots.
We have Rosies. Yes, we have the phones. I mean the robots going around on the carpet and sucking up all of our badness.
That's
we have the same robots that can mow our lawns for us. I mean, we have all of that.
Oh, I have to ask Raquel. Though. Speaking of robots, because another one at Disney, another fun thing, you can actually make your own droids. And one of the things, when you get the little special thing over there, they have a chip. It's like a personality chip. Apparently, it makes sense. Like, all right, it's going to have these like beeps and whatever, but you get this chips and it's going to change those beeps and whatever to a certain mood or a certain way. And I have to ask Raquel that since she's had this now sitting in her home with let's just say another beast in the place, how has that been going? Has technology scared away the animal from your home, or is that just simply not being opened anymore because no more?
I need to get batteries for it.
Oh no! Already?
I'm so sorry. Yeah, for some reason it wasn't working the other time. The remote is, but the droid itself, I think it's like 4. I think it's AA batteries. Right. So I don't have those right now.
Oh, what? Okay, you got to get that work. You got to come back and report to us whether the droid is being friends with the cat. Yes or no? I think the droid's like going to be like keeping the cat company. That should be interesting. So pet sitting, another useful tool for robots that you can potentially put AI into. That'd be interesting. And if it could recognize like what the pet does over time. Again, AI. What's the point of AI? AI by itself is not the end. There's machine learning. The concept of, and when we say machine learning, it's not the machine learning from a machine. It's basically the machine behind the scenes learning from something. So you give me a pattern, give me another pattern, throw patterns at me, and give me the exceptions to the patterns, and as much as that possible, and then tell me I'm learning. Is this a yes or a no? Just like a human would do it, except it would do it at scale. And now imagine that. It's like, well, okay, every time something tells me that the machine will probably be able to interpret what a cat's asking for better than a human, sooner than a human actually knows. Will machines translate our pets talking to us?
I saw a paper about someone that wrote an AI to tell whether the baby's crying because it's hungry or needs a diaper change.
Right. I mean, the only issue is they grow up and they learn, and then they stop using that language. So then whatever it is, hey, we almost cracked the baby language. And say, what? He grew up. He started talking. And then you try to, what was that thing that you used to say? So I really don't remember because I'm speaking like you now. But however, animals are different because animals, at least through their life, will continue communicating in that fashion. So there's an opportunity. It's just, I'm just saying. Yeah, of course.
So So there are, you know, like seeing those videos of cats with Roombas, and
Yes.
Yes,
sometimes they'll be afraid, and sometimes they'll just ride them.
yes, that I've seen.
So,
Typically, that's the ones sent to me are the ones where they're riding the Roomba. Yeah.
so I'm wondering if Bob will try to just crawl on my R2 unit and just ride around on it. I think she might be too heavy. If she was a kitten, sure, but I wonder how friendly she's actually going to be with it compared to, like, you know, a Roomba. We have a Roomba, so I can do some testing myself.
Right. Well, you got to convince. You got. It's like, well, literally the herding cats scenario use case, right? How are you going? How are you going to get Bob? By the way, the name of the cat, to actually sit on the Roomba? Do you have to put something on the Roomba to make it say, "I want to sit there," or are you going to pretend to sit on the Roomba and say, "Bob, look what I'm doing. You want to be like me?"
Or
How would you train a cat to do that?
you just put a box on top, and the
As-
cat gets in the box.
And well, yeah, that's right. Cats always love to go into boxes. Why? What is that? What is that
Yes, if
thing? It's
I've
like
learned
it's a
anything
box. I'm
from the
going in.
internet, that's the
Well,
truth. Yeah.
this is why I wanted to get the serving tray attachment for the R2 unit. Then I could just put tuna on it.
Yeah.
There we go. So yeah, so they have all these attachments, like so you can like R2 in Jabba's place for serving all of these attachments for it. And so that would make sense. Yeah, put the tuna on it and make it happen. And so yeah, we're now literally at the convergence of man, machine, and beast, all
And
coming together. All coming together, the fun stuff. So we're going to wait for a report on that at some point. That will be followed up, and maybe we have an AI person. By the way, I would like to bring in as another guest as well, because we want to find out before we have to, give up our lives for Skynet and our overlords. We would like to know at least what the plans are, so we can accommodate what's going on. So we'll see
well,
how that goes.
how's Ralph's money doing? Maybe we can
Uh-huh.
buy an island and get away from baby Skynet and live.
So some news on that. Other than the fact that it's still halfway underwater. It's and in its position. The thought that now the government's looking at is like we're looking at that. We not liking what we see. We want it. We want to do it. And potentially, can you imagine this? Would this happen? I want to find out. Would this happen? Can a government entity come over and take it to its private and just take it over and say, all right, all you bitcoins, you will now be forced to convert to the U.S. coin, Zoom, because your servers are sitting where we live and we take it over. But I don't think that would work. Is the internet to the point where we're so independent that there's no country that can go in and impose their
Oh,
will?
sure. Yes.
So
Well,
there's a question.
if you look at Ukraine, right? I mean, we've seen it. We've seen war zones recently where they tried to take down, the internet for information, and
That's right.
Starlink, is available and actually is from all that I've heard, Starlink is actually really useful as far
Right.
as the bandwidth and all of that goes, and the latency is not nearly as bad as I thought it was. But it's because they're not in geosynchronous orbit. It's because they have the whole payload, and
Exactly.
that's an interesting concept because back. So my parents live out in the country, right, where they have a phone line, and their phone line won't do 2400 uh,
Baud.
baud.
2400 baud. I remember those.
It's hard,
Right.
um, but now they're able to get some internet because cellular is out there. But I looked at the early satellites just to see if I could get some bandwidth because at the time I was working as a contractor, and so any time that I wasn't working, I wasn't getting paid, and I would go visit them, and wow, it would be great
Pretty
if I
much.
was
Yep.
there. Plus, I could take it off my taxes. It would be great.
Yeah.
It would be awesome.
Sure
Um,
enough.
and the latency, because they were geosynchronous satellites, they were so much further out that the latency was just crazy. It was unbearable. So
Right. I mean, not so much. Well, here's the thing, though. The idea also is they're trying to improve, like 5G to 6G and everything else. We're in that latency becomes moot. is what
Right.
they're trying to get to the point where like that becomes moot to begin with. So the question is like, well, when it was far away, it was hard. I made it closer, so I solved the problem. Well, I just improved the technology, so now I can be far away. So what happens to the guys that are closer? Well, hold on a second. If you're closer, if far away is now better, does that mean that closer is even better yet?
Maybe, yeah. And see,
What?
one of the other problems that I had was that it was only downloads, right?
Right.
You didn't transmit up to the satellite. You actually used a phone line to
Transmit.
send out.
That's right.
Where
That was.
even
I remember
1,200
that.
baud would have worked because you had massive, bandwidth. Um, but the latency was just horrendous. So,
Right. So
but
so that
yeah,
was one of the things
calling,
that stopped me. I remember when wireless first came about, and I had internet wireless at my house in the burbs, and actually that was the best thing. What I liked about it, it's like, well, no more reliance on the cable and everything else, and all the only thing was missing. The only reason why we still had cable was there was still no way to see TV shows other than HD shows. The missing piece was all the services that now we have, right? The Netflixes, the
well,
Amazons, HBO Plus didn't exist.
but for how much longer?
But for how much
Right?
longer?
Right?
Right.
HBO, and we're seeing a lot of Warner. What was it? Warner bought HBO, and now there's just there's a lot of things are changing, and I'm concerned. I really, we recently got Netflix back, and
Right.
I'm really impressed with the level of their shows, with the Netflix created content.
That's right.
But you look at Disney Plus, you look at HBO Max, and they're both cutting shows.
Right.
I'm concerned that we're in a retraction.
In a retraction with Netflix, it seems to be the case. Like they have a successful show right now that they're considering not continuing with because it's so expensive to make. It's like, this is a really tough one. You're sort of, are you shooting yourselves in the foot or are you going? Though I will say it's not so much the same in Disney Plus. Disney Plus, at least the way I've been seeing it, they have. Here's their big plus. They have the Disney material, for heaven's sakes.
Right.
That even the old stuff, just that alone, is got value that'll forever keep giving because there's always going to be the kids born that have not yet seen this stuff, and a lot of that stuff really doesn't get old. And the other fact is they have two major franchises: the Marvel stuff and the Star Wars stuff. I look at that, it's like, oh, is it going to be too much Marvel, too much Star Wars? Like we're getting all tired with that. Maybe because here's the problem, right? When you have so much success and you don't get as much, you're like, yeah, there's not as much success with that. But truly, I don't think they're caring as much with that. They're keeping the volume up and they're keeping the levels up. And frankly, for someone like me and even my family, is like, you're keeping it interesting. I have something always to look forward to. I can't wait to see it. It's like on the top of my list. They're actually they have not yet disappointed. Right, where anything is like a show like, oh gosh, they didn't do such a good job. They're actually high
September
level.
8th, right? September 8th, we get the Thor movie.
The Thor movie's coming in. So the movie's also coming in sooner. Remember the days we used to wait till it shows up on HBO or something like that for a movie, and it would usually be months later or a year sometimes, right? Basically after the Oscars are done and everything else, then they'll send it. Now it's a matter of months. It isn't that long at all. So we've been in the case where sometimes though even that's like, well, how are they going to go to the movies? How are they going to make their money if people are just going to wait for it? They found a magic number. They learned from Black Widow. Don't release it completely at the same time because people are absolutely not going to go. And the folks that are stealing, you cannot keep their hands off the stuff, right? So they seem to have found some sort of magic combination that seems to be okay. I was okay waiting until now for Thor. If there's a Star Wars though, if that comes out in the movie theater, I'm sorry, I'm going. I don't care. I'm not waiting for that one to show up. I'll show up. Maybe the Marvel ones might consider that, but even sometimes the Marvel ones, I look at that, I'm like, I need to know what's going to happen. I want to be there to see it myself and feel the experience of theater. But here's the thing, though, I will still go to theaters. Raquel remembers this. I used to bring her all the time. There is that different. It's a different feeling when you're in the giant place with the big screen.
Let me ask you this: What would you think? What would you think about a movie that takes place in New York? I'm watching it in New York, in Chicago, if I'm watching it in Chicago, or in Daytona Beach, if I'm watching it in Daytona Beach,
Where I was
because
recently,
that
yes.
level of sophistication is right there at the edge, right? We're so close to being able just to change the background, no matter what the actors are doing. We can overlay with the AIs that we have. It would cost a lot of money, but we could overlay a background that would be locale specific.
So
What about
that's
that?
almost like if it was like a do your own adventure thing, that makes sense. For like sitting down in the movie theater and seeing a different locale for that one. Maybe not so much, because here's the thing: whatever happens in the background, after all, it has to promote the story, right? If the story is about a gumshoe in a film noir setting, and all of a sudden you change the background to be, oh, I don't know, the jungle, maybe it doesn't quite work because you were like in the seedy alley of the bamboo corridor. No, that didn't work.
Right.
It doesn't match. You might have seen those, right?
Everything. It won't work for everything, but what if, I mean, you know, we have to take it not just can you,
Yes.
but then why should you? And then, what can you?
Another Disney one. Another Disney reference. Back to Disney World. Star Tours. This is one of the very first Star Wars rides that were done in Disney. And when it was done originally, it was pretty much the same, a similar experience. You went in, and I think even back then they had like if you went in the next time, it might be a slightly different adventure. But they did make it eventually where like every time you go in, it's a different adventure each time. And randomly, there'll be like all these possible planets you could be going to, 2 different sets. It starts the same and ends in a similar fashion. The scripty parts are the same, but the places you go and what happens in it, literally each time you go, it's different. So I'll give an example. When we went in the first time we were there early, and so the all of a sudden we're like in a bad area. It was like the First Order. There's Kylo Ren going like, we're going to go get that spy. And who's the spy? All of a sudden they took a picture of somebody in the audience. Yes, that's the spy. So of course it'll be a different person that they put a picture on each and every time.
Right.
So, and then all this stuff happens. And then we ended up somehow in Naboo in the past. Well, how did that happen? Wow, it's really crazy because they just somehow put this together. Next time around, I went to the ride again. I'm thinking, well, that was cool. Let's try something different. Then next thing you know, it's good old Lando Calrissian, the original fellow, doing something very. This must have been done like just a year or two ago, and he's the one saying, "Hey, rebel spy over here, you got to help us get over here." And they changed all that, and it's a different experience every time. And it could have been like when we get in, maybe they could have like voted for location as we're going in. That's the only part that probably would have been missing if we went in there and they sent in there, you have chosen, of course not, and go, right? And then have that happen. I could see that happening. Again, interactive movie theater business. But then at the end of the day, though, I will say I'm still a fan of going in and let the creators give me their vision of whatever it is that's going on. The old, would you have liked the ability to mess around with The Godfather when it came out into the little pieces? Probably not. It's like how it came out. Maybe we would have thought something different for something else. Forget it. With folks that sat down and saw it as is in its view were like okay, that's a movie.
Yes.
Right. Well, that's the kind of movie experience I love.
Look at the movie Clue. Right? Clue went out, and at theaters had different endings.
That's right. I remember that.
Right? And it's not that you want every movie to have it. It's that it opens up something different that a movie can do. So it's like, my phone is now not only my phone, it's also a camera. I don't use the camera much, but it's nice that it's there. And when I do need to use it, it's available. And it's just an extra feature that some people
would you go to a movie theater to see like a different way of the story progressing or a different ending and try it out? Just like, and again, in the ride, the case of the Star Wars ride, we'd like to go in again and again. But here's the thing, we can't really go in again and again because you have to wait in line sometimes like 30, 40 minutes before you can do it again. You have to, if the lines are short, great. If the lines are long, maybe not so much. If the movie theaters did something like that, and they not charge the fees that they're charging now for watching a first run and did it little. I mean, people are hanging out, say, all day. So they'd make their money and say, oh, the beverages, the popcorn and stuff, they're coming in and out. They probably have to pay more money to maintain the bathrooms, that's for sure. But a whole bunch of other things that if they work that out, would that be something that they would follow?
Wouldn't it be though? Wouldn't that be an interesting? I mean, who knows?
Yeah. And
Maybe
again,
maybe if we knew people that, I don't know, worked with films
I
and
don't know.
you
We
know,
might know somebody.
technology,
Who knows?
yeah,
We might know
had
somebody. Hint,
kind of
hint.
technology background, or you know,
That'd be cool.
I don't,
So to be sure, in the other cloud connection over here is the fact that a lot of these movies are not being delivered anymore. Those big cans we talk about it, with the big
right.
films that are being sent to the movie theaters. They're almost, I think, if not, they're probably all going to be. If they're not already exclusively digital, they're pretty much in that particular way. I'm not sure who's still doing actual film. Where you have the cameras coming out? Those cameras that are coming out there are essentially digital machines that are powerful, to be sure, but they're getting the downloads direct from the studios. They have, of course, all the security and all the other pieces to make sure that no one can tap onto them or hack them or doing any of that. Or maybe it's the case of like connect at night and cover it and then turn off your internet, for all your pieces. I'm not sure how that technology works. That'd be interesting to find out. But in
Yeah,
the end of the day, that
actually,
stuff's being created in the cloud.
I
And
think I know a guy.
you know a guy.
Yeah, I think I've chatted with a gentleman that had something to do with the way that those movies, all of that digital content is being stored locally,
Right.
and it has to be stored securely. It has to be delivered. It's not necessarily. I mean, think about it. The best way to send someone terabytes of information is still FedEx. I'm sorry,
That's
that's
true.
still
They're going to put it into a big piece of thing and send it over there instead of waiting hours and hours of through the pipe.
right. Cheaper, it's faster, and it's more reliable.
So is it cheaper though? It's cheaper because of the time.
Well,
Because I mean, right now,
it's
it seems like I have unlimited internet for X dollars.
but you really don't.
Ah,
You have a cap. There is a maximum amount that you can push through the pipes that you have in your house. And
aha.
even if they don't throttle you, even if it's full throttle all day long, you're still not able to move petabytes of information. Okay, and we have things that literally take petabytes now. So the only way to send that much information is the way that NASA's been doing for a long time. Um, you build a server, you put a bunch of hard drives in it, you ship the server.
Boom. There we go.
It's there.
Right. Once
at
it's
the other
there,
end,
then it can maintain connection, and then it could maybe like, okay, differences now can go through the thing. Something changed a small way. Here's your change, as opposed to you have to start somewhere.
right.
The concept of like the Xboxes were like that. There was two different kinds. One that actually had a space in it to take essentially the big fat download, and there was some that was completely and 100% streaming. Right,
Yes.
required internet connection. You might have had some memory on here to do the caching and all that stuff, but that's it. Right, and which is better, right? Where the discs better? Well, the discs unfortunately are volatile. Those could damage and everything else. So you needed some sort of solid state way of maintaining it. So you want the speed, you want the performance, you need something on the edge, something that's got the power in there. But to get that is a physical delivery.
Right.
After that, if you're digital, then you're just going to have to live with latency issues and whatever.
And it just takes it takes some amount of time to push that much content. So but I mean we're close now to being able to have enough bandwidth, literally have enough bandwidth, because if you think about it, we're streaming movies all day long.
That's right. We are.
Downstairs, people are streaming movies in our
right.
house.
Right. So right, exactly. While we're talking, there's some a lot of streaming going on. Exactly.
And we have enough bandwidth for this, right? We don't have enough bandwidth for the type of resolution and the what's in a movie theater.
That's right.
We're not there yet, but we're not far from it. And as soon as we get to the point that we can easily stream that, as soon as we get to that point, then we will have enough compute space, because we're in the cloud again. We'll have enough compute space to do all of that real-time replacements like you're talking about. And replace, hey, we can go in and, we're in Ford country. We're going to replace all the Chevrolets with Fords. We're not changing the background. We're not changing the city that you're in, but we're going to change the cars.
You're literally branding and theming the piece.
Yeah. We're just gonna change.
You know where I could see that right away? Training stuff, training videos. You make like a generic training. Say if you're doing, for example, like a harassment training or onboarding for employees for basic and all the compliance pieces of that. You could make a whiteboard where that's all there, and literally just by hitting the button, you're going to turn them all to the people from that culture. You're going to turn them all from the company background. Maybe even the offices are exactly the same what they already are.
Take the person that you're giving the presentation to into it.
Right. Oh.
Right. Why not?
There you go. We're not going to get any VC money for that, but as long as it gets done, that might be an idea. Yeah. But that's a. I think that would be a nice idea.
I like it. No, I know that right now. I mean, today, right? You and I both use Camtasia. I know that today I can rebrand something.
Right.
In the background, just with Camtasia, and that's off the shelf.
That's just the straight up software. Yeah.
Yeah. But if we look at like deep faking a person into the scene, right? Not as one of the main actors, but as one of the people that are in the periphery.
That's right. Oh yeah, like I said, essentially you can change, for example, the people who are behind. It's like, well, this and the focus group says that, well, these sort of folks will be more sympathetic to, or folks will be more sympathetic when they see people like that in their screen versus someone else. Fine, let's put them in the background. They're done. They're ready to go. They're doing exactly the same things. They're acting in the same way. They're just literally developed right there, and they're real enough. They're just being faked in.
Yeah.
All right. Oh boy, I'm seeing over here that from our time, we're about 15 minutes away from the normal drop time, but I am getting hit on a Friday afternoon. Hey, folks.
I'm sorry. It is Friday afternoon. It's
going to happen, right?
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. More importantly, unfortunately, it's also 8 o'clock in the morning somewhere else. And 11 p.m. somewhere else, or one of those other times. So that means that some folks are like, hey, I'm still up. What about you? Do you ever have that, right? It's like, I'm still up. I was like, yeah, okay.
Well, I'm full of East Coast, so I get late meetings dropped on me. That's
that's the part that hits.
Hey, 6 p.m. for a meeting. Gosh, they don't wake me up early, but they keep me on late.
That's right.
Whatever.
The folks from California have the opposite, and they're like, oh, great, a 5 a.m. meeting. Oh yeah, but that's 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock over there in New York. It's like, yeah, but even in New York, that's early, isn't it? It's like, well, not exactly. Of course, in California, I think that's the way the traders had it. They could go to golf sooner than the folks who had to go to golf. The traders, that is, to go to golf in the Midwest or in the East Coast.
For sure.
Speaking of golf.
All right. Time to get out of here.
Time to swing on.
Let's say goodbye to everyone.
Yeah, we're going to follow up. Watch out for more guests, and we're looking forward to any more input that comes in. We might be getting some. Who knows?
Tech demos.
From my company to your company, and let's keep our jobs if we can. If not, hey, give us a call. Maybe we might know somebody. You never know. Just saying. Don't be stuck. Don't be stuck. Don't be stuck. All right. Thanks so much, Larry. It's good to see you. Raquel, thanks very much. Please sign us out. Bumper us away.